Bitcoin has just printed this cryptic candle right here, hot off the press, and it has huge potential. It has big power to reverse what has been happening with Bitcoin. This candle is called a hammer candle. We need to get into what is going to happen with this candle, but let's state the obvious here. For 100 days, Bitcoin has been closing inside of this tight range. And for the first time in 100 days, we've closed below this range, signaling a big warning. But again, this hammer candle could come in and completely save the day if Bitcoin is able to do this simple thing. We're going to give the latest and greatest on this one simple thing that Bitcoin could do to completely change everything. But it all boils down to the candle that we just printed and the huge clues that we're dropping in the power of this candle. In today's video, we're going to break it down and you're going to leave with a sense of clarity as to what is happening with Bitcoin and the one simple thing Bitcoin needs to do to avoid chaos. We're also going to have two bonus charts in today's video. Number one, we're going to cover this and why was Bitcoin in extreme fear last week and suddenly in heavy greed. And also, we're going to touch base on the legendary Gaussian channel as it pertains to the stochastic RSI and the madness that's happening there. We're going to cover all of those charts in today's video as a huge bonus to you. Let's get into it. Something big is coming. July 24th, get ready. Hi, I'm Steve. I quit my job over 13 years ago, been traveling the world since, thanks to my trading and investing skills. Join me for sponsorship-free TA with genuine value that actually works. Subscribe. So here we are, Bitcoin US dollar index, and we are on the 2-week chart. Each candle here represents 2 weeks of price action. By the way, towards the end of the video, I'm going to give an update of how I transformed my health, lost 35 pounds by doing one simple thing. What you'll notice right away is that we have this red zone here. That's a pretty tight zone, but for 100 days in a row, we've had every single candle close right inside of this range. Up until our most recent candle that just printed, hot off the press, was the first candle that closed below here. However, that same candle that closed below for the first time in 100 days has huge potential. It's a big candle. It's a cryptic candle with a hidden message, right? We need to get into it, and what's happening is right away you can see this wick. And I've talked to you repeatedly about the wicks. The bodies tell the facts, the wicks tell the story. And the story is, when you have a large wick on the downside here, most people will say, well, you don't want a wick on the downside because it went way down here. Well, that's not true at all. What happens is price did go way down here and it was bought up heavily. It reversed precisely at this market structure, which coincides with this precise market structure of February of this year, right? So way back in February, we had this little pivot high here, which happened to be the exact level that we had a swing low at as we just printed this candle. So when we got down here, it was bought up heavily. Some people with deep pockets saw what was happening. They saw how low we got in the RSI and they bought it up, and we were left with this huge wick. Now, anytime you have a big wick to the downside, it simply means momentum to the upside. Now, this candle that printed here on the 2-week scale is quite similar to this 2-week candle that we printed right here back in April 2024. Large wick to the downside, thin body, little wick on top, right? Very similar, but this candle that just printed is more textbook, more power, more potential, right? So what you see right away is these wicks at the bottom really helped us, right? We had a wick down here, jumped up in price on these following weeks. Long wick here, jumped up in price on these following weeks. Long wick here, what do you think is going to happen, right? So what we see on the upside is that we have with long wicks on the upside, we get pushed back down. Long wicks on the upside here for May and June pushed us back down in price. Wicks tell the story. Plain and simple, these are just cold hard facts. Now, what we have here is a very specific type of hammer candle that we got to get into. It has very specific powers. It has very specific potentials, but you have to weigh those potentials and powers with what it did. This candle clearly, unequivocally, just closed below its market structure of the past 100 days. In other words, Bitcoin had an extreme rally and has built incredibly strong market structure for the past 100 days, and it was all given up with this singular candle that closed outside of this. Now, to be very, very clear, we are in this candle, but it's very, very new. What this candle can do, this candle can go up, down, backwards, and forwards. It doesn't matter until this candle closes, and then we have unequivocal facts to go by. Plain and simple. This is a new candle, so it's pretty irrelevant at the moment. But what we expect out of this candle is very clear, based on cold hard facts of what this candle is and the tricks it has up its sleeve. But it comes down to the storyline of the stochastic RSI versus the 2-month candle, the storyline that we've been giving you for 3 months. As I told you in the previous video, we all laid out the facts there and what we're looking for. Tilt your phone to the side and subscribe. But in this video, we've got to talk about this candle that just closed and the power it has. We're going to come back to what this candle is and what we expect out of it here in the moment, but I got to get to 2 bonus charts. Number 1, we have the Fear and Greed Index. Fear and Greed Index, unequivocal facts. Last week, extreme fear. It was one of the lowest fears that we've had in a very, very long time. You can see how low we got on the scale. We hadn't been that low since 2022. These are just cold hard facts. I want you to let that sink in for a moment. Since 2022, we haven't been in that much fear. What do you think happens after we get into fear? I mean, you be the judge. Look at all the times we got into fear before and what happened after. It's very simple, right? So plain and simple, we were in extreme fear last week and now we're in greed. It happened real quick. It happened with a stochastic RSI cross. So I just want you to pump the brakes, take a deep breath, and look at the cold hard facts. Don't make any assumptions. Don't make any guesses on should you buy, should you sell. I want you to go based on pure facts. Right? Now, let's give a little update on the Gaussian channel. As we mentioned last week or the week before, what had happened with the Gaussian channel is we came heavy close to the Gaussian channel, right? Now, Gaussian channel, simply put, is quicksand. On the 5-day chart, which is what we're on now, if you pull up the Gaussian channel, you can just go to indicators, type in Gaussian channel, and then you will have it. If you go to the settings and you set it up with these inputs right here and these styles right here, you'll have it set up precisely like this. And you'll understand the Gaussian channel has 2 simple colors, red, which is bad, green, which is good. You'll also understand that the Gaussian channel acts as quicksand in every single market. Now, what you'll notice is when Bitcoin is in a full-blown bull market, when we're not touching the green at all, when we're in a full bull market, not touching the green at all, and we turn and reverse and touch the Gaussian channel, it acts as quicksand. It literally just pulls us in, and we're usually in there for about a year. It happens time and time again. The rules are we have to be in an unequivocal bull market, not touching the green. And then as soon as we reverse and touch the green, it sucks us in for at least 1 year of recovery. Why is that noteworthy? We just came ridiculously close to dipping our toe, just our toe, into quicksand. But that's all it takes, is a literal toe. If we dip our toe in there, you know what quicksand does. We're done. And it takes us 1 year to recover. So we are at that situation now where we're starting to see a bounce from here, which we've seen previously. We get down here, we have a bounce. Then we jump back in. You can see what happened previously. We get down here. And this is back in 2018, right? We reverse, we come back to the Gaussian channel, we were bought up, we see a huge bounce over the coming weeks to coming months, and then we dip back our toe back into quicksand, and the rest is history. We get sucked back in. It happens time and time again. You can even go all the way back here. Look at this. 2014. You'll say, oh, this time is different. Well, 2014, we reversed, we came down to quicksand, didn't touch it, but we had a huge bounce up and it took a handful of weeks, but then we came back down. So I just want you to be realistic. We just came very, very close to quicksand at the same time as if you look at the RSI, same 5-day chart. We had since 2020 an extreme uptrend. What's an uptrend? Well, we have a pivot low, we have a higher low, another higher low, and another higher low at the same time as making higher highs. If you open your dictionary and you go to an uptrend, that is unequivocally an uptrend by definition. Higher highs and higher lows. And what we just did was we completely broke it. In other words, since June 2022, so for 2 years, we've held an uptrend and we just broke it. These are just facts. This is ridiculously noteworthy and something that nobody's going to address. This is something that usually falls through the cracks with most people that discuss or think about Bitcoin. They overlook something like this because of hope. Okay, this is an uptrend of 2 years that was just broken at the same time that we came ridiculously close to quicksand. I'm just going to be presenting facts here. Don't hate the messenger. These are just facts, right? I need you to be ready. Something big is coming. July 24th, get ready. So what we have before our eyes is also a broken structure for the first time in over 100 days, right? So what we have here is we covered this fear and greed. We covered the Gaussian channel. Now you have a little bit better understanding of, wow, okay, we jumped from pretty heavy fear to greed real quick. We just went the lowest in fear since way back in 22. We just broke a 2-year trend line. We just got really close to the Gaussian channel. And the only thing that can really save the day is the weekly stochastic RSI. Quite literally, that's the only thing that can save the day. Bitcoin has to make a new all-time high and it has to make a new high in the RSI on the weekly scale. It has to, or it's going to be a failed rally. And with any failed rally, it reverses lower than the previous low. That's by definition a downtrend, right? So what we see here is this candle has the potential to help us tremendously. It's got a couple tricks up its sleeve as well, and this is called a hammer candle, as I told you earlier. Now you may think, well, this is a red candle, so it's probably a bearish hammer. That's where you're wrong. A hammer candle that is bullish can be red or green. It's irrelevant. It's the matter of where it's placed. In order for it to be a bullish hammer, it can be red or green, but it has to be found at the bottom of a downtrend, and it signals a trend reversal. Well, what do we have here? Well, we have these two candles back in May and back in June that had big upper wicks that pushed momentum down. We saw momentum fall down over the coming months to our most recent one that just broke its structure, but it printed a long lower wick, which was bought up heavily by a lot of deep pockets, which means we have momentum on our side at the same time as a cross in the stochastic RSI, and we're pushing prices higher, and we have ourselves a bullish hammer, a textbook bullish hammer. Tilt your phone to the side and subscribe. And again, I compared it to this candle back in April. This is not a textbook bullish hammer, but it's got a lot of characteristics of a bullish hammer. What you don't want to see in a bullish hammer is a large wick like this. I wouldn't call this large, but it's larger than you want it to be if it's a textbook. What we have just printed is a textbook bullish hammer. It's literally found at the bottom of our downtrend. It has a fatter body than that of like a dragonfly doji, and it's got a long lower wick, which is more than 3 times the size of the body. It's got all the characteristics of it. It's found at the bottom of a downtrend. So you know that there's going to be bullishness in the market. And what I want you to do is just remain level-headed. Bitcoin has to pass these two huge tests, or it's going to be a failed rally, which is called a fakeout rally, which nobody wants it to be a fakeout rally. Nobody wants it to be a failed rally, but nobody looks at these clues. They just get so involved in the bullishness. They get so involved, oh my God, Bitcoin's pumping, and they buy at the top, and then the thing reverses and they're like, oh my God, what happened? I thought we were so bullish. Well, what happened is there's huge clues in the charts, and Bitcoin had to pass these two huge tests. If it does, phenomenal. If it does, Bitcoin's going to rally a lot higher, period. It would be hard not to, right? If we're honestly talking about Bitcoin passing these 2 tests, right, it means that Bitcoin reaches a new all-time high and Bitcoin gets higher than 88 on a weekly RSI, which would quite literally mean it's in the top 10 most bullish times in Bitcoin's history. Price would be really high, but it's a tall test. It's asking a lot of Bitcoin, especially given the structure of the market right now. And again, if you're on my email list, a couple of weeks ago, we already knew this exact scenario would be playing out, and I gave my prediction as to what I thought was going to happen once we got here. I gave my raw opinion plainly to my email list. So shout out to you if you're on my email list. If not, you can join my email list and unlock these kinds of videos for future use. But let's be very, very clear. Bullish hammer here, obviously bullish heading into the market. We need to see where this next candle closes. Above our heads, we've got 69K, which so far every body of the candle closed below 69. Watch 69. Does that mean we can go above 69? Hell yes. We've done it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 candles of 2 weeks. We've got tons of evidence here that we can go way above. It doesn't matter where we go. It matters where we close. We need to close a body above 69. That will be a huge, huge, huge clue, right? And if we're not, and we're just doing more of the same, it's also a huge clue. Either way, we've got a big clue coming in these coming weeks, coming off of this bullish hammer, pushing momentum into the market, looking at these key areas, looking at the fear and greed, watching the Gaussian channel. Most importantly, the 2-month candle versus the weekly stochastic RSI. This storyline is heating up. Now, I wanted to give this secret, this tip that helped me lose 35 pounds pretty easily. And with one simple thing that I changed in my life, this has gotten a lot of responses. This is something that I did a couple of years ago, and every time I talk about it, there's tons and tons of comments with people who are already doing this or just started doing this, and it also helped them so much. But there's a lot of traction with this discussion, so I wanted to revisit it. Let me tell you the story. This happened about, it's almost 4 years ago now, where I had always been a relatively skinny kid my whole life, right? I stepped on the scale one day and suddenly I couldn't believe the number that was there, and I'm like, what is going on? When did this happen? I was always a skinny dude. When did this happen? And I remember thinking, I've got to do something. So I started researching, okay, what can I do? What can I change? And for me, the way my brain works, I don't like complex, overly complicated things that are complicated on purpose. I feel like everything in life, the simplest answer is always the best, which is how I discovered the charts and teach you about the charts. I don't teach you some overly complicated thing. You have to do all of these tricks and techniques. No, you look at the facts and they're right there. Period. So I make everything really simple. So my brain needed something simple that I could do to change this number on the scale, right? So I started researching, I started looking, and I really discovered the Wim Hof method, breathing of doing, and this is where it came from. It originated with Wim Hof, and it was picked up with the founder of Twitter. If you guys know Twitter, he is really into breathing. He's really into these techniques, and I was watching this interview from him, and he's like, hey, I picked this up from Wim Hof, and what I do is this 1 meal a day or intermittent fasting. This is something that really Jack Dorsey brought onto my ears, and I started hearing this from a lot of business folks. And again, this is about 4 years ago. And I said, hey, this sounds really simple. This sounds like something that meets what I would understand and that I could do in a simple way. I love food. I've always loved food. I was a typical human eating 3 meals a day. And I said, all right, let me try this 1 meal a day thing. Let me introduce a lot more water into my diet, and let me do this intermittent fasting. It has so many health benefits to the body with not consuming food over a period of time. And most people, the biggest question I get asked is like, hey, don't you get hungry? And my simple answer is no. When you're hungry, just drink more water. It's so good for the body, and everything is solved in this way. And I lost about 35 pounds probably about 3.5 years ago. And then since then, it's just been on autopilot. It makes me appreciate that 1 meal a day that I have significantly more. And I have these little cheats in my diet too, where I'm allowed an extra snack on certain days of the week as a reward, right? So, me, I'm still a fat kid at heart. I love, candy, sweets, chocolate, give me a bag of whatever candy and I'm in heaven, right? So I can eat these things, and I track my blood a few times a year, and I keep regulating certain parts of my diet to achieve optimal health, and it's been amazing. right? I have so much more energy. I'm back to the skinny dude and I'm appreciating food more. I still have my snacks. I'm not in prison where I'm like, oh, I can't eat carbs and I have to count the calories and I have to do sugar and I can only do, there's not all of these complicated rules. Life is simple. Eat one meal a day and intermittent fast for that period of time and your life will change, period. The simple rule is like, put less food in your body and you will lose weight. It's not complicated. It's really, really simple. Put less food in your body and you'll lose weight. Everyone that just heard that is like, damn, that's some real stuff right there. And it's so true. So I know tons of you have been doing this intermittent fasting, or you started doing it years ago when I talked about it here. I want to hear your update. How has it impacted your life? Because it's something that isn't talked about enough. As we get older, we obviously put on more weight than when we were kids. I am the same weight now as when I was 17. That's pretty cool. Most people are like, I want to get down to the weight of my wedding day picture so I can look. I'm like, let me go back to 17. Let me do that. And that's what I did. So take it for what it's worth. This is something that really could impact your life. Something big is coming. July 24th. Get ready. Hit that subscribe button. This bull run is our road to 500,000 subscribers, but I need your help. Today, tell one person about our YouTube channel, how we spit facts, go against the herd, take no paid sponsorships of any kind. Road to 500,000, let's go.